In court, a daughter testified against her own mother, calling her a murderer. The CCTV footage clearly showed the mother turning off the patient's ventilator. However, hidden within that footage was a secret of just 1 minute that everyone had missed. Today's story is about a caregiver mother who took all the blame to protect her daughter. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe and like buttons. We'll be back with more compelling stories. Now, let's begin. Silence in the courtroom. The Seoul Central District Court, Criminal Division 3, was shrouded in a tense silence, where even a whisper felt intrusive. The packed gallery was focused on the large screen at the front, which vividly displayed a woman's hand moving slowly. Yoon Yoon-hee, 58, seated in the defendant's chair, looked gaunt for her age. Her hands trembled continuously on her lap. The presiding judge asked in a heavy voice, "Defendant Yoon Yoon-hee, on the night of October 15, 2024, around 1100 p.m., did you disconnect the ventilator of patient Seo Jung-pil in room 302 of Seoul Nursing Home Hospital?" Yoon-hee did not lift her head and replied in a small voice, "Yes, I did." A murmur rose from the gallery. A young woman in the witness stand bit her lip. Jung Da-young, 28, Yoon-hee's daughter. Her eyes were mixed with anger and betrayal. The prosecutor stood up and said, "Your Honor, I will now play evidence video number 3. A black and white CCTV video appeared on the court screen. The time read 11:03 p.m. The hospital room door opened, and Yoon-hee, dressed in a caregiver's uniform, entered. She approached the bedside and checked the ventilator's connection. She hesitated for a moment, then slowly disconnected the tube. The heart rate displayed on the monitor 76, dropping to 55, then 31 was clearly visible in the corner of the screen. The prosecutor stopped the video and stated, "What you have just witnessed is evidence of intentional homicide." The defendant removed the life support device without a doctor's order and without the patient's consent. Da-young rose from the witness stand and spoke. "Your Honor, I would like to speak." The judge nodded. Da-young spoke without looking at her mother. "My mother did not call me that night. I was a nurse working in the same hospital. In an emergency, she should have called me. But my mother committed that act alone." Yoon-hee was still slumped over. Her shoulders trembled slightly, but she did not weep aloud. Da-young composed herself and continued, "I love my mother. But I believe no one has the right to end a life for any reason. That is why I am here." Camera shutters clicked in the gallery. The media had sensationalized the case. A daughter suing her own mother, an unprecedented event. Yet, no one knew what truly happened in that hospital room that night. The caregiver's long night. Let's go back 1 month before the incident. Yoon Yoon-hee was a veteran caregiver who had worked at Seoul Nursing Home Hospital for 20 years. Widowed early, she raised her daughter alone, and when her daughter became a nurse and was hired at the same hospital, Yoon-hee felt an incomparable joy. However, Da-young preferred to keep her relationship with her mother a secret at work. One evening, when they passed each other in the hallway, Da-young said coldly, "Let's act like strangers at the hospital. It makes things awkward with colleagues if they know." "Okay, Da-young. Do as you wish." Yoon-hee was hurt but tried to understand, telling herself that all young people were like that. They wanted independence. Still, her heart ached every time she saw her daughter in the hallway. The patient assigned to Yoon-hee, Seo Jung-pil, was a 70-year-old man who had collapsed from a stroke 3 years prior. He was mostly unconscious, relying on a ventilator and IV fluids for life support. They said he had one son, but Yoon-hee had never once seen a guardian. The hospital bills were paid by automatic transfer, and no one ever came to visit. Yoon-hee kept vigil by Seo Jung-pil's bedside every night. She washed his body, changed his position to prevent bed sores, and checked his IV drip. And sometimes she spoke to him. Mr. CO, the weather was lovely today. The leaves outside the window are turning red. There was no reply. Only the heart rate monitor blinked rhythmically. Still, Yoon-hee kept talking. She felt someone needed to talk to this person. Even a patient no one visited was still a human being. The night of October 15th was unusually cold. Yoon-hee reported for her 10 p.m. shift as usual and entered room 302. Seo Jung-pil was lying in bed, as always. Oxygen saturation was 95%, heart rate 76. Stable numbers. Yoon-hee checked the chart, took his temperature, and examined the IV drip speed. As 1100 p.m. approached, Seo Jung-pil suddenly began to convulse. An alarm sounded from the monitor. Oxygen saturation was dropping rapidly. Yoon-hee frantically pressed the emergency bell. Once, twice, 3 times. But no one came. It was right before a holiday, and the hospital was short-staffed. Mr. CO, it's all right. I'm here. Yoon-hee held the patient's hand and pressed the emergency bell again. But the hallway remained silent. The patient's face grew paler, and his breathing became strained. Yoon-hee rushed out into the hallway and shouted, "Is anyone here? Emergency." No one answered. The nurse's station was empty. She ran back into the room. Foam was beginning to emerge from Seo Jung-pil's mouth. Yoon-hee checked the oxygen mask with trembling hands. It was working properly, but the patient's condition continued to worsen. Please, please." Yoon-hee placed a hand on the patient's forehead. It was cold. At that moment, the door to the room opened slightly. There was a sense of someone entering. But Yoon-hee was too focused on the patient to turn around. Then, suddenly, the lights in the room flickered, and the ventilator let out a high-pitched beep. When Yoon-hee turned her head, the blue light on the ventilator was off. What happened? Yoon-hee rushed to the ventilator. The plug was pulled out of the socket. Who pulled it out? Yoon-hee was bewildered and tried to plug it back in. But just then, she heard footsteps in the hallway. And Yoon-hee instinctively froze with the plug in her hand. When she turned back, the door to the room was already closed. Someone seemed to have left, but she wasn't sure. Yoon-hee plugged it back in. The ventilator started working again. But it was too late. The heart rate on the monitor continued to drop 76, then 55. Then 31. Yoon-hee attempted CPR. But her strength alone was not enough. Eventually, the heart rate dropped to 0. Nurses rushed in belatedly. They pushed Yoon-hee aside and began emergency measures. But Seo Jung-pil did not wake up again. The time of death was recorded as 11:07 p.m. Daily life shattered Seo Jung-pil's. Death was initially going to be treated as a natural death. He was an elderly patient with many underlying conditions. And his death was not unexpected. However, the next morning, the administrative office discovered an unusual detail. There was a visitor record indicating the patient's guardian had visited the hospital 30 minutes before the death. The office worker reported to the on-duty doctor. "Doctor, the record shows the guardian of the patient in room 302. Visited last night at 10:40 p.m. Oh, then they came for a visit? But the room caregiver said she didn't see the guardian." Finding this odd, the on-duty doctor checked the CCTV. His expression hardened as he watched the video. At 11:03 p.m., Yoon-hee entered the room and clearly disconnected the ventilator tube. And the patient's heart rate dropping was also visible on the monitor. The on-duty doctor immediately reported to the hospital director. The director fell into deep thought. Should this be reported to the police? The hospital's reputation could be tarnished. But since a patient had died, the exact cause had to be revealed. Ultimately, the director decided to report it to the police. That afternoon, the police arrived at the hospital. Yoon-hee was waiting in the nurse's station when she encountered the police. Two detectives stood before her. "Are you Ms. Yoon-hee?" "Yes, I am. Did you disconnect the ventilator of patient Seo Jung-pil last night?" Yoon-hee was speechless for a moment. Should she say she disconnected it? But she was trying to plug it back in. She had only discovered that someone else had already pulled it out. But who would believe that? It's all recorded on CCTV. Will you come with us? Yoon-hee got into the police car. She heard her colleagues whispering in the hospital hallway. She killed the patient. The caregiver must be crazy. How scary. Yoon-hee walked with her head down. At that moment, her eyes met Da-young's at the end of the hallway. Her daughter's face was contorted with shock and disbelief. In the police interrogation room, the detective asked, "Why did you disconnect the ventilator?" "I didn't disconnect it. Someone had already pulled it out, and I was trying to plug it back in. The CCTV shows you disconnecting the tube. I was trying to reconnect it. When I entered the room, it was already." "Are you denying the evidence?" Yoon-hee closed her mouth. It seemed no one would believe whatever she said. And one thought flashed through her mind. If she told the truth, someone else might be implicated. She didn't know who that person was. But what if it caused problems for Da-young's job? Could her daughter continue to work at this hospital? "I will exercise my right to remain silent." The detective sighed. Yoon-hee was transferred to a detention center on charges of homicide. The daughter's choice. Da-young was shocked to hear of her mother's arrest. Her mother killed a patient? That couldn't be true. She had lived a faithful life. But the CCTV footage was undeniable evidence. Da-young watched the video herself. Her mother's hand disconnecting the tube, the patient's heart rate dropping. It was all clear. A few days later, Da-young went to visit her at the detention center. Her mother sat behind the glass partition. Yoon-hee looked drawn. Da-young picked up the phone. "Mom, why did you do it?" "Da-young, why won't you answer? It's all on CCTV. You did pull out the ventilator, didn't you?" Yoon-hee stared at her daughter silently for a long time. Then spoke in a small voice. "That person was suffering too much. Is that the reason? So you can decide to end a life?" "No, that's not what I mean." "What do you mean, no?" "I'm a nurse. I know the preciousness of life better than anyone. But you disregarded it." Yoon-hee couldn't say anything more. Tears streamed down Da-young's eyes. "Mom, I'm so disappointed. You were the person I respected my whole life." The visiting time ended. Da-young put down the phone and stood up. Yoon-hee placed her hand on the glass. But her daughter walked out without looking back. That night, Da-young could not sleep. A mix of anger and betrayal toward her mother. And a strange feeling that something was wrong, churned inside her. Her mother had been the most sincere and kind person her whole life. She couldn't believe such a person would suddenly commit murder. But the evidence was clear. A few days later, the media requested an interview with Da-young. She initially tried to refuse, but the reporter said, "The patient's family has filed a strong petition for your mother's severe punishment. It's a natural demand from the bereaved family. But you are her daughter. What do you think?" Da-young pondered. And she decided, "Don't be swayed by emotion. Choose what is right." Even if it was her mother, taking a life was wrong. On the day of the interview, Da-young stood before the camera. The reporter asked, "How do you process the fact that your mother intentionally caused the patient's death?" "I love my mother. But I believe no one has the right to end a life for any reason." "Then, will you press charges against your mother?" Da-young hesitated for a moment and then answered, "Yes, I am pressing charges against my mother. Everyone must be equal before the law." The interview was broadcast as the top news story the next day. The shocking content was that a daughter was suing her own mother. Public opinion was divided. Some praised Da-young's courage, while others condemned her as an unfilial daughter. In the detention center, Yoon-hee watched the news. On the screen, Da-young calmly stated that she was suing her. Yoon-hee cried, but she held no resentment. Instead, she was proud of her daughter. She grew up to be a child who knows how to choose what is right. Da-young, I'm sorry for making things so hard for you, Yoon-hee murmured to herself. And she resolved in her heart she would not let this incident hurt Da-young. Even if she had to take all the blame herself. The lawyer's suspicion. A public defender was assigned to Yoon-hee Han Min-sok, a 45-year-old veteran lawyer. When he first received the case files, he thought it was a simple case. The CCTV evidence was clear, and the defendant admitted the facts. So it was just a matter of seeking a reduced sentence. But after meeting Yoon-hee, his mind changed. In the detention center's visiting room, Han Min-sok asked, "Why did you disconnect the tube?" The patient looked like he was in pain. "Is that all?" "Yes. The CCTV shows signs that someone else entered before you did." "Do you know who that person is?" Yoon-hee shook her head. "I don't know. Are you sure?" "Yes, I am sure." Han Min-sok looked into Yoon-hee's eyes. She was lying. He knew it from his 20 years of experience as a lawyer. She was hiding something, but why? Back in his office, Han Min-sok reviewed the case files again. The CCTV video record covered the time from 10:50 p.m. to 11:10 p.m. But there was something strange. The footage between 11:03 p.m. and 11:04 p.m. was not smooth. The screen seemed to cut and then continue, as if it had been edited. Han Min-sok requested the help of a digital forensics expert. "Could you please analyze this video for me? I want to check if there are any edited parts." A few days later, the expert called him. "There is a deleted section in the video. It is exactly 1 minute and 7 seconds long. Can it be recovered?" "I will attempt to do so." Han Min-sok informed the police of this fact. But the detective in charge was uninterested. "The defendant has already confessed. So why is this important? Don't waste your time." "But there is a possibility that the video was manipulated." "Manipulated? By whom? Why would the hospital do such a thing?" The detective scoffed. Han Min-sok decided to uncover the truth on his own. He visited the hospital. He requested Seo Young-pil's records from the administrative office. "Can I have the patient's guardian information? He has one son, Mr. Seo Ki-hoon. Could you provide me with his contact information?" "That's personal information." Han Min-sok showed a court order. The office worker reluctantly provided the contact. Han Min-sok called Seo Ki-hoon. But the call was not answered. After several attempts, he finally connected. "Who is this?" "I am Han Min-sok, Ms. Yoon-hee's lawyer." "Ah, the caregiver? What is it?" "I have a few questions about your father's death." "What would I know? It happened at the hospital. The records show you visited the hospital on the night of the incident." A short silence followed on the other end. "Ah, I went for a visit but just turned back." "Why didn't you enter the room?" "Something urgent came up suddenly." "What was it?" "That is my private life." Seo Ki-hoon hung up the phone. Han Min-sok thought it was suspicious. He was hiding something. Han Min-sok decided to check the hospital parking lot CCTV. Seo Ki-hoon's car might have been recorded there. Tension in the courtroom. The trial began. The gallery was filled with reporters and citizens. Everyone was interested in this case, an unprecedented event where a daughter sued her own mother. Yoon-hee sat in the defendant's chair, and Da-young sat in the witness stand. The two did not look at each other. The judge declared the court in session, and the prosecutor spoke first. "This is a clear case of homicide, where the caregiver intentionally ended the patient's life. Defendant Yoon-hee disconnected the ventilator without a doctor's order and without the consent of the patient or family. This is not dignified death or euthanasia. This is murder. Han Min-sok, the defense lawyer, stood up to object. Your Honor, there are many parts of this case that have not been revealed. Part of the CCTV video was deleted, and there is a record that the patient's guardian visited the hospital on the day of the incident. What does that mean? There is a possibility that someone else disconnected the ventilator first. The gallery buzzed. The prosecutor objected. That is a baseless claim. The CCTV clearly shows the defendant disconnecting the tube. We request the submission of the complete, unedited video. The judge made a decision. The hospital is ordered to submit the original footage. We will confirm it at the next hearing. Da Young was called as the first witness. The prosecutor asked. The witness is the defendant's daughter and a nurse at the same hospital. What did your mother usually say about the patients? My mother often said that patients should be treated with humanity, and that those who are suffering cannot just be left alone. Do you believe that is related to this case? Yes, my mother found it difficult to see patients suffer. That's why. Da Young couldn't finish her sentence. Han Min-sok asked a question. Witness, where were you on the night of the incident? I was at the nurse's station. Were you aware that the emergency bell rang? No, I wasn't. Why weren't you aware? It should have been audible from the nurse's station. The hospital was short-staffed that night. So I was caring for patients on other floors. So, your mother had to handle the emergency situation alone? It seems so. Han Min-sok nodded and sat down. He was now certain that the case was not simple. The hospital's on-duty doctor was called as the second witness. The prosecutor asked, "What did you think when you checked the CCTV?" It seemed to be a clear intentional act. The scene of the patient's ventilator being disconnected was clear. Han Min-sok asked a question. When you first checked the video, did you not find any evidence of editing? I am a doctor, not a video expert. But was there nothing unusual? A section where the screen cuts or the time jumps? The doctor thought for a moment and answered. Now that I think about it, the screen might have flickered once between 11:03 p.m. and 11:04 p.m. Why did you not point that out then? I didn't think it was important. Han Min-sok held up some documents and said, Your Honor, the digital forensics results confirmed that 1 minute and 7 seconds of the video were deleted. We need to find out what happened during this time. The prosecutor objected. No matter what happened during that time, the fact that the defendant disconnected the tube remains unchanged. The judge spoke. Is the recovered video available? It is currently being recovered. Recover and submit it by the next hearing. The first hearing ended. Yoon-hee still said nothing. Han Min-sok approached her and asked, Why won't you tell the truth? I need to know the facts to help you. Lawyer, please just let it end here. I will admit guilt. But you might be innocent. No, I'm not. I did it with my own hands. That's what's important. Han Min-sok was frustrated but could not break Yoon-hee's stubbornness. The recovered truth 1 month later, the second hearing was held. Han Min-sok submitted the recovered CCTV video. The judge ordered the video to be played. A new video appeared on the courtroom screen. The time read 10:58 p.m. A man appeared in the hospital hallway. The man, who looked to be in his late 30s, looked around and opened the door to room 302. And he went inside. The camera could not show the inside of the room. But 1 minute later, the man came out again. His hands were empty. The man rushed out of the hallway. And at 11:03 p.m., Yoon-hee entered the room. She checked the patient and went to the ventilator. If you look closely at the screen, Yoon-hee is seen discovering the unplugged cord and looking surprised. She tried to plug it back in. But at that moment, footsteps were heard in the hallway. And Yoon-hee stopped, holding the plug in her hand. The video ended. The courtroom was in shock. A murmur arose from the gallery. Da Young covered her mouth with both hands. The prosecutor looked bewildered. Han Min-sok spoke. Your Honor, as you can see, someone else disconnected the ventilator first. The defendant was trying to reconnect it. The judge asked, "Who is the man in the video?" "He is the patient Seo Young-pil's son, Seo Ki-hoon. His identity has been confirmed." The judge immediately issued a subpoena for Seo Ki-hoon. He was to be called as a witness in the next hearing. The court adjourned, and Yoon-hee returned to the waiting room. Da-young followed her in. "Mom." Yoon-hee was surprised to see her daughter. "Da-young, why are you? You were trying to save him. Why didn't you say anything? It's just, why? Why did you try to shoulder everything alone?" Yoon-hee looked at her daughter silently for a long time, then slowly said, "I didn't want you to be hurt. This happened at the hospital where you work, didn't it? If the truth came out, the hospital would be in an uproar, and you would have a hard time. So, you going to prison is better? Yes, that's better. Your life is more important." Da-young couldn't hold back her tears and began to cry. "Mom, I'm sorry. I sued you. I called you a murderer. It's all right. You did the right thing. You upheld the law. No, I should have believed you. I should have known you weren't the type of person to do that." Yoon-hee embraced her daughter. It was the warmth of her daughter she hadn't felt in a long time. The two stood there for a long time. The truth in court. A week later, the third hearing was held. Seo Ki-hoon stood in the witness stand. He looked anxious. The prosecutor asked, "Did the witness go to the hospital on the night of the incident?" "Yes, I did." "Why did you go?" "To visit my father." "But you said you didn't enter the room. Why?" Seo Ki-hoon couldn't answer. Han Min-sok asked a question. "Are you the beneficiary of your father's life insurance? What does that have to do with anything? Please answer the question." "Yes, I am." "How much is the insurance payout?" 1 billion won, about $770,000 United States dollars. The gallery buzzed again. Han Min-sok pulled out a document. "You accumulated a large debt 1 month before the incident. You had a 500 million won debt from a failed business. And creditors were pressuring you. Is that correct?" "That. And on the day of the incident, you entered the room and unplugged your father's ventilator to collect the insurance money. Is that correct?" Seo Ki-hoon's face turned pale. It's all on CCTV. You unplugged the cord first, and Ms. Yoon-hee was trying to reconnect it." Seo Ki-hoon hung his head. "I apologize. I was wrong." The judge asked, "Why did you delete the video?" "I paid a hospital employee to delete it. I knew my image was recorded." The truth was revealed. Yoon-hee was not a murderer. Rather, she was the one who tried to save the patient. The prosecutor withdrew the charges, and the judge declared Yoon-hee not guilty. The defendant, Yoon-hee, is found not guilty of the charge of homicide due to insufficient evidence. Applause erupted from the gallery. Da-young ran to her mother, tears streaming down her face. Yoon-hee hugged her daughter tightly. "Mom, I'm really sorry." "It's all right, Da-young. It's all over." As they left the courtroom, Han Min-sok asked Yoon-hee, "What will you do now?" "I plan to quit the hospital job. I'm going to move to the countryside." "Why?" "You're innocent. The public's attention is a burden. And I don't want to cause any more trouble for my daughter." Da-young said, "Mom, I'll go with you." "No, you have to work here." "I want to be with you, Mom. I can work at another hospital." Yoon-hee looked at her daughter's face. Her daughter's eyes were sincere. Healing the heart. 6 months later, Yoon-hee and Da-young settled in a small village in the countryside. Yoon-hee volunteered at the village health center, and Da-young worked as a nurse at a nearby hospital. Mother and daughter ate dinner together every evening, sharing the events of their day. One evening, Da-young said, "Mom, I saw a terminal patient at the hospital today. The family was considering dignified death. Oh, that must be a difficult decision. Yes, but I think I understand now. That life is precious, but dignity is also important. Yoon-hee held her daughter's hand. You will be a good nurse. It's thanks to you, Mom. You taught me how to treat patients as human beings. Yoon-hee smiled. The nightmarish events of that day were slowly fading. Of course, she could never completely forget. The patient Seo Jung-pil, the confusion of that night, the tension of the courtroom. They all remained in her heart. But now, she felt she could live with them. Da-young became a respected nurse at the new hospital. She was kind to the patients and empathetic to their guardians. And above all, she never forgot the dignity of life. Whenever she walked down the hospital hallway, she looked down at the name tag pinned to her chest. Beneath her name, a small phrase was engraved. Protect life, but do not forget dignity. Yoon-hee sometimes thought of Seo Jung-pil. She hoped he had passed peacefully. And she also thought of Seo Ki-hoon. He was now on trial for attempted murder and evidence tampering. Yoon-hee did not resent him. She just felt pity, that he tried to kill his father for money. One day, Yoon-hee received a letter from Han Min-sok, the lawyer. Ms. Yoon-hee, I hope you are well. I have thought about this a lot. Why you tried to hide the truth. Why you were willing to sacrifice everything for your daughter. I understand now. That was a mother's love. You are truly a wonderful person. Please take care. Yoon-hee wiped her tears as she folded the letter. He was a grateful person. Without him, the truth would have been buried forever. Da-young walked with her mother every weekend. They walked along the country roads, talking about the past, the present, and the future. Mom, when I get married and have children, I want to raise them like you raised me. How? With unconditional love, just like you gave me. Yoon-hee put her arm around her daughter's shoulder and said, You are already a person full of love. The two walked side by side. The sunset painted the fields red. The wind blew, scattering their hair. It was peaceful, a peace she hadn't felt in a long time. That night, Yoon-hee wrote in her diary. Today, Da-young said she wants to raise her children like me. Tears came to my eyes when I heard that. I was never sure if I was a good mother. But I was grateful that my daughter acknowledged me. The events of that day still remain a nightmare. But I feel like I can overcome it now, with my daughter. We have forgiven each other. That is enough. Friends, what does this story tell us? Families sometimes misunderstand, hurt, and drift apart. But with truth and forgiveness, they can become close again. Yoon-hee tried to take all the blame for her daughter, and Da-young showed the courage to stand before the law. Both expressed love in their own way. If this video was helpful, please subscribe and like. We will return with better stories. Thank you.